because that sounded a little.
Ooh, yeah. You're even like it was like a weird kind of yodel.
Oh, blame it on my new temporary basement setup here.
Yeah, it's like where in the world is Kurt?
You never know,
It
and you
it
will never
almost
know.
it almost feels like you're setting up your own studio, and like that's like the studio grid above your head, like it's a little unfinished, and everything, you know, pan the camera down and everything's cool. But
Aside from this, I'm going to expose the secret. Old house, old doorbell wire. Uh, who knows? Maybe my studio space will move down here. It's quite cozy. So, anyway, what
yeah,
else
no,
is new?
you sound good, no
Yeah.
echoes. So
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you know,
Maybe I'm just overthinking everything. I told the students today that they're kind of overthinking their diagrams, and then I saw a lot of eye rolls and some pushback.
so you went down in the basement and then you said, maybe I was talking to myself instead.
Yeah. So I found the mirror. Oh man, I know some of them do listen, so hopefully they get a laugh out of this.
Well, but they
I
were
know some of
they
them
were
are
trying
stressed out too.
but they were trying to listen last night though, because last night's our night that we do it. And
Yeah.
I admit I called an audible so that I could have dinner with an old prof, who's a good friend in town, and it was great. Thank you for doing that. Um, got
Anytime.
an interesting
Any.
I got an interesting photo that you're gonna love. I'm gonna post it on Instagram. I meant to do it last. Um, he is someone who's really focused on digital practice and always has been, and went to Stanford, like has a PhD, uh, is an architect, um, but has always sort of focused on digital practice. Really, really smart. Was fortunate, to know him, and so we were talking about a bunch of different things, and he was showing me. He's about to move, and so he was showing me a 3D print. We were talking about Italy, and so the Italy program that I had been to twice. I went as a student and then a grad student. He went as a faculty member multiple times. Not when I was there, but went as a faculty member multiple times. And so, as one would do, of course, you know, got a 3D print of the Italian hill town that you spent time in.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so he had a really cool 3D print of it,
Did
kind of
he
a Noli
gift
kind
it
of
to you?
map. No, I didn't.
Oh,
I was, mm, I was, I almost like, you know, found a pocket, like, oh, look that way. Let
yeah,
me
right.
take this.
Well, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I yeah. Now that I'm down here in the basement, my 3D printers are not running at the moment. I think that would be quite some background noise that we wouldn't want. But yeah, maybe it's on the list to experiment with sort of 3D relief mapping like that, or figure ground, or you know. And so maybe I can maybe I'll get to it sooner than your faculty friend. As but
Yeah.
how
No, I
slow
mean,
I'm at.
it was, well, hey, you're a busy guy. You're a busy guy. Um, but I've got a question for you. This is a sort
Uh,
of a pop quiz.
okay.
Um, so we went to dinner, and uh, Austin likes to think of it as having a good food scene. They Texas in general has now kind of upped its game as a state with this whole Michelin kind of stuff, right? And we've talked about that before. Houston always sort of was known for, kind of having a little bit more of a, international cosmopolitan, Dallas to a certain extent. Austin really wanted to catch up. But all that to say, lots of choices. So I just was like, yeah, before you move, like pick a place that's just like on your list, that you haven't been to. Happy to go wherever. And so he's like, oh, this one place, it's called Calamachu. Okay. And I was like, I kind of knew where it was, and it was in a building that once we got there, I realized, I was like, oh yeah, I know this place. Never had been there for dinner or anything like that. But I was like, what kind of food? I was like, I'm not even sure what nationality that is. Like what? And so the restaurant is named for a cocktail. So question number one, what country do you think has its origins?
Well, your proximity to Mexico in Texas makes me want to think it's Mexico. So that's my guess. Otherwise,
Not a bad guess. Not a bad guess.
Okay. I've not ever had a cocktail
But
named
wrong.
Calamachu.
Okay. So it's Spain. It's the Basque region of Spain. And it is a cocktail that is red wine and Coca-Cola.
Ooh. Did you have one?
Yeah. I did. Because I was like, well, I have no idea what that's going to taste. Yeah, well, but I was like, I have no idea what that's going to taste like, and I was, consider me a convert. I mean, it's not something you need all the time in your life, but if it was, special occasion or kind of the right place, the Basque region of Spain, maybe, yeah, sure, let's go for it.
We'll have to, maybe find a spot that could make that in San Diego for the AIA conference. We might find some Spaniards out there. So that was the main pop quiz, if I've ever had one, or was
that was it, dude?
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I thought that was going to be difficult. I still failed.
No, this is the green room. This is the green room. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, you didn't get it right. I mean, but
well, if there's such a thing as A for effort, right? I hope your professor friend would
absolutely
give me the A for effort.
Right.
Man.
Well, I mean, folks, this is the green room. This is our warm up. If you're listening to us on the podcast, this is going to be episode 193 in just a moment. But this is what we do. We live stream this stuff, and so.
Well, I was going to say, technically, we're going to keep this in it this time. We're going to be distinct, right, Jamie?
Well, yes. Yeah, we're keeping it all in it. But I'm telling the folks who are listening, who are going to listen, as I do, to a real podcast, as opposed to, I don't need to go back to the live stream to watch myself. I mean, that's a lot of navel gazing. I don't need that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't watch or listen to them past the edit. And yeah, it's in here and in here. We'll put the little heart. So.
All right, are you ready for this? Are you ready to hit the button? This is where you hit the button.
Okay. I gotta get back to the button skills. All right, ready? Oh, that's our background music, Jamie. That's the wrong button. Wrong button,
That's
guys.
the wrong button.
Oh,
that's the wrong button.
There we go. this is the right button. This one. Wait, come on. Now it's mad at me because I hit the wrong button. And so now, that's unfortunate. You know what's funny? Is it playing? Do you see it?
No.
Oh, I could only be so lucky. Well, oh, there we go. It's hard to imagine, Jamie, that we've been doing this 8 years.
I mean,
and I still don't have the technical.
there's just a lot
chops.
of buttons. There's a lot of buttons, folks. It's just a lot of buttons, and sometimes we're showing our age. So
yeah, I know, right? We speaking of that, we had class today. We had our lab session for our design studio, and some jokes were made on our behalf, of the faculty's behalf, for being born in the 1900s, right? And needing reading glasses, as you were teasing me in the green room about the cheaters, the readers. So
well, and then the debacle with the buttons. So
right.
I still think it makes me, all it does is sometimes you got to laugh, right? And of course my memory goes back to, remember when, I never did this, but there was always like remember when you took CAD for the first time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That was where you're supposed to yes. Knowledge. Okay. Yeah. So
I actually had to think about
in CAD class who were just right. This would have been back a while ago, right? So you remember those fellow students were so they were fascinated that there were quick keys to do a lot of stuff in CAD, but they also couldn't remember anything worth a damn. And so they, someone in their infinite wisdom made like a piece of cardboard or something or paper that you could fit on your keyboard, and you could just oh, it's that one. And it was which it never fit, right? It never fit the keyboard very well. And so if you were sitting next to that person, you just hear a lot of cussing, and the paper was shuffling, and they were trying to find keys and trying to remember too many things. I just always entertained me. It just always just,
Is that why you're laughing at me today?
That's why I'm laughing at you today, because you're just trying to find that quick key, and you're just like, crap, that's the wrong button.
Yeah, but I was always I was a pretty good key command learner, although it's not really proving itself right now.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I still use the quick commands and all that stuff too, but it's like the thing that you have to recognize when you're just learning something for the first time is, God forbid, you gotta try it a few times, right?
Practice.
To practice, you gotta practice, and it's okay to screw up, or forget. Give yourself some grace. Shit.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's a good piece of advice in general, whether it's CAD or anything you're trying to learn. So, Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Already
I
dropping
mean,
the
think about
knowledge
Kurt.
bombs and the wise words.
Oh, Kurt, think about, and this isn't like, and this will sound like we're old, right? But think about just since college, right? You graduated, you're in the profession, right? We've been doing this for, some decades now. Think about how many new pieces of software, new, not just just new pieces of software we've had to touch.
Yeah. Oh, I know, because I've
I mean,
experimented with quite a few, which is sort of my own downfall of curiosity, the rabbit hole.
right. Well, yeah, but I mean, just along those lines is, there's a lot of stuff in here, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of quick keys, and there's a lot of sort of, nuanced techniques and things that are going to be more applicable to the work that you do. Like, I mean, I have trouble reading like a manual on anything. I mean, that's just,
Oh, yeah.
we grew up in a world, we grew up in a world where it was like you threw the box in front of you and it was like, oh, there's some buttons here and there's some wires. I'm just going to, I'm going to figure it out. Oh, I'll get into the settings and do whatever. And sure, generations after us all are digital natives, right? So they grew up with it. But, admittedly, we're not that far off of this digital native stuff. It's just that we've also got an aging brain. Just have an aging brain. That's all I'm going to say. I'm so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's my that's my last knowledge bomb for the first piece. So.
That's basically sums up kind of how it went today in class in the age gap. The students are gonna, if they are listening tonight, they're just gonna face palm themselves and go back to their drawings and say, yeah, I'll come back to this later. But so anyway,
so is this the point where they hit like 1.5 speed?
Yes. They're
Right.
probably they're probably approaching 2x pretty quick.
Got it.
Got it. Yeah.
Just checking.
Yep. So what's in the mug today then? Coffee.
Props.
Oh, you brought props. Oh, you found one. You found an antique relic.
I found one. I found an antique relic.
We should probably promote them as limited editions and limited supply, because I believe that's what they are now. So
yes.
But
I decided, I decided this week, because everything's been so damn heavy. Like, I need to lean into this bag that I found of our limited edition Coffee Sketch podcast from Rootless that I do not believe you can get anymore. And note to self, we need to work on a new plan. But yeah, so that's what I'm enjoying.
Nice. In the spirit, I don't know if we talked about it last time we recorded, when there was the college football finals, but it inspired me to go to the store, and I found Cafe Bustelo, which is a Puerto Rican brand, right? And there was the so I read in New York Times that Miami University's football team has a cafecito coordinator. So a cafecito is a little coffee, right? But with lots of sugar.
Yes.
The coffee, especially.
Right.
And so this guy, he's one of the.
They lost.
He has. I know, but it was still fun. It was still fun to.
Okay.
to what they even so New York Times did a thing about him, and then on game day, there was a camera on him, and he celebrated his little cafecito with his players, because before every game he would have these little cups and share coffee with the players that were interested. So you used to have this. He would have this huddle around him, and then have a little coffee, and they filmed it during the beginning before kickoff on at the game. I thought it was cool. So I got myself.
So are
some.
you trying to are you ch- so are you trying to endear like this equipment guy from the University of Miami who beat Texas A&M
Oh
in the playoffs?
yeah,
Are you trying to endear
I was
him
trying to make
to
him.
me?
Yeah.
Because
So you
it's kind of working.
soften
I mean,
the soften
I
the
think
vibes.
like I'm yeah. I mean, I am I am that kind of that is part of my personality, as you know. So there is a sentimentality that I have to that kind of stuff. So okay,
Well, I was rooting for Indiana anyway. I think most of America was rooting for, just because they had never won a championship. So anyway, not to get into the sports
yes,
episode, but so yes, I did
we
forget that
always
A&M lost to Miami. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to make it hurt.
no, it's all right. Yeah, and for folks, we do have some side quests on this podcast where we will talk about sports. We will talk about the weather because climate change. And but note to that, Kurt, it's almost time for the MLS again. So
Season's
the
gonna
world's
start.
game, the football, it's going to start. And you know what this year is? It's the World Cup
Ah, right.
is coming. The World Cup's coming
To the U.S.,
to North
right? Well, sorry, yeah,
yeah,
North
to the
America.
US, Canada, and Mexico.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. I did see a thing on New York Times, not to keep us on the sports tangent, but of the selected stadiums that they plan to host games in, and around the country, because that's architecture. Yeah, the biggest being Dallas, which nobody can. That everything's bigger in Texas, but also in Dallas. It's and
Well, yeah, they
do
actually
they have
they're
a little
getting
plaque that calls it Jerry World somewhere? Because that's what they call
no,
the
but they
Arlington
should if they
Stadium, right?
don't.
Yeah, most people call it Jerry
Yes,
World, right?
agreed.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, they'll have the most games. I think that Times article that you're talking about, I think I saw it too, and they were kind of hyping up that if your best chance of in the States of probably getting to a game, I think just by sheer number of games is Dallas. So I do not have tickets yet. Me and friends who are avid supporters of the beautiful game, much like many other folks who support it and follow it. FIFA has made this ticket process the most convoluted, hot mess, dumpster fire of stuff that anybody could imagine. Like it was like if you made a system and then you said, no, make it harder to get tickets. And then when you make it harder, they come back and say, yeah, a little bit harder. And then we're going to roll it out like multiple times between like August and now. Yeah, it's like a lottery, but it's not a lottery because I don't know. It's
they're probably going to be
bullshit.
quite pricey.
Oh, yeah. Well, so there's the level of the lottery, which they're already pricey. And then if you're on the resale market, that's just, you might as well, sell a kidney or something. So
I was thinking you were going to say that. I was also going to say maybe mortgage, second mortgage on the house,
yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not going to give up the house. Maybe a kidney, but not the house.
Now I understand. I understand a lot more. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, we could segue into our sketches because we do always still talk about sketches.
Yes.
Right,
Well, you never
Jamie?
told me what. Well, you did tell
Oh,
me about your coffee. So, did you enjoy it though? Did you enjoy it? Did you
oh yeah.
enjoy your
Except
newfound
I
find?
don't put as much sugar as the recipe would probably call for. I uh, I I don't think my dentist would be happy about that. But yeah,
Fair, fair.
it was a great start today. Wednesday, right? Always kind of a tough midweek wake up, and I've been lately trying to churn out a deadline set of drawings, um, and so it was nice to kind of get Wednesday going with a good cup of coffee. So yeah, yep, I did enjoy, and I will
Good,
enjoy for
good.
a few more days. So let us dive in. So do you want to? We have a couple of fun sketches. I don't know if you want to isolate the one from the other, or do you want to? Okay, to share them side by side.
Yeah, I mean, we could share it side by side and then eventually focus on the one. But I think the one on the left was the one I wanted to start with today. Um, and um, so this is just a few days after this anniversary. But we're talking about us being old. Um, 1900.
Proud of.
God, it's like a million years ago. Right. Yeah. I mean, but it was. Uh, I thought it was sort of telling, and I think this is just the way the kind of time and memory and all those wonderful things kind of work. Is that uh, just as we're getting ready to see, one of I mean, both of us appreciate technology, invention, design, influence, and just as we're getting ready to see Artemis 2 launch with manned and sending astronauts back to the moon and around it on the longest manned flight that anyone has ever done. It's they just this week they just pushed it back a few weeks. Still in the launch window, all that was expected. They're doing all their technical. They did a wet dress rehearsal this week. So it's on the launch pad. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation we need to talk about is when they, the technology involved in bringing this rocket from its apparatus bay where it's assembled and, brought upright all the way over to the actual launch pad. Just the technology involved in that is quite amazing. But it's standing upright. It's on the pad. It's they've done the wet dress rehearsal. They've run all the systems. They've pushed things back because they've got a few more things to test. But as that's happening right now in the present, you have to be able to sort of also harken back to the fact that 40 years ago, um, the anniversary of the first teacher in space and the sort of the tragic accident with the Challenger just happened, and I think that for people who and for your students even, as people today are sort of grappling with this whole idea of being present and how they're digesting information in the present, whether it's live streaming like we're doing right now, or a podcast or on the news or however you get your news. Um, that moment is one that is indelible in my mind. Um, Being in a classroom, where they roll like, and the youngins, they've seen the jokes about it, right? That they roll in the TV cart, into your whatever classroom you're in, and they put the TV on. So yeah, we watched it live. When they talk about the Challenger explosion, we saw it live because it was such a big moment. If you think about it,
Mhm.
this was going to be the first like non-military, because most of the astronauts in the program at the time were military or had been in the military and kind of moved into kind of astronaut corps. This was the first time somebody who effectively was like a public a private citizen was going to go into space, and they decided that it was going to be a teacher, as sort of this wonderful education and science moment. And so you have this incredible woman who, you know, did all the training, did all the things, and then, you know, the the tragedy of Challenger occurs. So, I was thinking about that, thinking about what's going on. And sort of in that moment, I also thought, there's this other great photo that I have, and I've shared with M, because about a little bit before that, there was this other moment that also happened with the previous Challenger flight, and it's this sketch. So this is, and I'm going to make sure I get his name right, um, Bruce McCandless was the astronaut. And so what you're seeing here in the sketch is this is the first time that an astronaut is untethered. There's literally no tether. There's no. He has exited the aircraft. He has exited the spacecraft, and he is on a what they called the MMU, the Manned Maneuvering Unit, um, and he is just floating, floating in orbit above the Earth, in a and if you've seen movies, these look like almost like jetpacks, right? But this is like 1984. In 1984, we had a dude who was floating above the untethered to any spacecraft, effectively testing this in real time, and just amazing. Just I mean, when you think about exploration and you think about bravery and innovation and all the things, I mean, this is I don't know what the word is, um, but these are the kind of photos that I think about when you're like, yes, we can do hard things. You know, yes, we can dream about imagined possibilities. This is where you can draw inspiration from human ingenuity and just the will to do it. Sports do that for a lot of folks. They do it for me. But from a technological innovation, this kind of a moment is what's just, again, indelible in my mind. I've drawn this sketch a few times in sort of different ways, have the photo at home. Um, but yeah, it's uh, kind of all that's kind of going on in the world. Sometimes you have to, look to the stars for some other stuff, and that's kind of what I was doing. Uh, hearing the news that Artemis is on the pad and all that stuff. This is where my head went.
Well, yeah, I can't add. I really can't add too much more. I think because I've seen your other sketch versions of this, um, and but the one thing I will ask or we chat about as an interesting, as you posted it, and you put hashtags or little captions or snippets in there. I paid attention, or I noticed that you wrote the I don't know how to pronounce it in Latin, but ad astra, which I had to,
Mhm.
I had to re-Google and learn, but to the stars, right? And get to the stars. So where was it? The McCandless himself who stated that, or was it a publication about the event, or is that just something else in pop culture, sort of that kind of uh,
No,
ties in?
thank you. Yeah, thank you for remembering the subtle clues that are sort of embedded in the sketches. This is sort of, if you know, kind of thing. Sometimes it's the inside joke, or it's
Yeah, yeah,
it's the shorthand. And it's the
Easter egg.
shorthand that sometimes is not. Yeah, it's the Easter egg. It's not sometimes the stuff we always talk about, but um, I do try and add some of that from time to time, and some of it's more personal.
Uh-huh.
Some of it is, there's a variety of different reasons. This one, Ad Astra, is something that I often say to Emily, um, given her aspirations for what she wants to do, and but it's an appropriate phrase for someone who looks to the stars. It's aspirational, um,
Yeah.
but it's also tangible for someone who wants to be a space architect. In her right, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's yeah, and it was something that. As a kid, I stumbled on it, and it's just always something that's sort of been in the back of my head. And then as a parent, um, it's taken on a new meaning, we'll say.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. But what's also a kind of an interesting serendipity, I suppose, is one of my students sent an email with some questions about the assignment and a draft of the work, and their signature, like the little, at the bottom of the email where you can put something. Most people put their graduation date or something like that. His had Ad Astra, and there's another phrase, I forget the other add-on, that so to the stars, and then within the stars, something like there's a bit of an extension to it, like a longer version. And I was like, wait a second, I know I just saw that somewhere.
You're
Because it
like,
was very
where did
interesting, and
no.
I liked it, because I actually, the email is what caused me to Google the phrase, because I've seen you use the short version, and then I started Googled the longer version, and it is kind of uh, hopefully optimistic in these weird times. That's all I got to say. It's just been so uh,
No, that's a that's a perfect way to put it.
yeah. So thanks. It's kind of fun. I'm sure we've probably talked about, and it's maybe interesting to compare if people are going back into the records of our 8 years of episodes. But we probably talked about one of the other iterations of the sketch, which is another interesting, uh, or I like to use these teachable moments as like, you don't necessarily draw something once and never again, right? As Jamie's evidence of returning to the same theme in iterating and things like that. But the it's probably been some time, maybe at least some years, since a previous iteration of it came across our stream here, but the context would have been different than where we are now.
Right.
So fun. And
Well, and it was a fun sketch. I think the challenge on this one was the last time I did it, because I went back and looked at it. After I started working on this, I was like, oh, I'm going to post it. And I know I've done it before. What was the last one? What did it look like? Kind of in my memory, it was even different than I remembered it. So I had to go back. But The previous one was closer, so it was more
Yeah.
kind of in your face,
Hmm.
and a little bit of a not necessarily a worm's eye, but kind of a really kind of brought up in big focus. And this one, I think the it was I wanted to capture the vastness of it
Hmm.
and a bit of that untethered moment and the challenge. I mean, rendering the astronaut, a figure in kind of an apparatus, that wasn't hard, right? That was pretty straightforward. But how do you do the Earth? How do these things that are just the scale is so crazy? How do you draw space? It's like our conversations about how do you draw the sky,
Hmm.
and do it in a way that's artistic, where um, it it picks up on it and gives you the sense of what's kind of going on, but you don't have to. There's a place where you can stop. You don't have to fill the whole page. There's a lot of
Hmm.
white space in this image, and you probably picked up on it too. Is that the way that I wanted to get a little bit of the curvature of the Earth, right? But at the scale that this is drawn, I'm even exaggerating it, admittedly,
Oh, sure.
in the drawing. But to draw to draw space, the background, um, I thought, how can I do this in more of almost like a kind of a mod, um, kind of graphic aesthetic, as opposed to something that's like more literal. And so that's why it sort of takes on this sort of triangular form behind the figure. It I was hoping it would kind of create a little bit of motion.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if that works, but um, I like how it sort of sets up the perspective in a little bit of a different way.
Well, yeah, I think I would say the aspect of motion is there because partly of the triangular blackness, but also the angled using 2 pages of the sketchbook on an angle. However, the astronaut is somewhat perpendicular or parallel with a sheet edge, but the background is not. It's on the bias, the 45. So my eye is kind of it's kind of rotating a bit in my head, um, as you see the white to the black, and then the bit of grounding with the earth, compared to the figure of the astronaut itself. So as your eye kind of moves around, and the fact that it floats in the whole white space of the 2 pages rather than touching an edge. Oh, obviously too, like it's the book is on a black background, helps too. So there's this contrast. So it's kind of a fun. I mean, yeah, to talk about it as a sketch is the contrast of flipping from white to black to white to black, um, is helpful in making it feel. Plus, if I mean, for me at least, I look at a spaceman, an astronaut, and I kind of already envision the anti gravity effect, right? And there or lack of gravity, I should say, the floating effect. Picturing it because I also think of other uh, uh, examples like in Space Odyssey 2001 or other space uh, space related movies or something like that, right? You can picture, um, like a fun fact, Danielle is terrified of outer space because of the lack of gravity. And so if there's ever a movie like Interstellar did a decent job too, of of the well, no, it wasn't Interstellar. It was the uh, what was the other one that was I forgot now. Same name, similar name. Anyway, right? Space movies. They freaked Danielle out. So we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, Interstellar is fantastic. That's in the top 10.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know if do you have a Letterbox account? Do both of us need to get a Letterbox account and start to add that as like a subreddit side quest on this
Oh,
podcast, or is that just me?
I do not have one, so
Okay. Well,
if
let's
if it has a
bookmark
lot of
that,
buttons,
and
I don't know if that's gonna work out too
I
well
know.
for me.
I know. I don't know. We'll circle back to that one. Okay, that's me trying to bring Kurt into the current times. But so Interstellar, excellent. 2001, Arthur C. Clarke, and
Kubrick.
Kubrick. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking about him the other day. Maybe it's because of the other things in the news with the Eyes Wide Shut. Do you remember that movie?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's another rabbit hole for another episode day.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But the thing about all these kind of movies and sort of reference points is that I think that there's sort of a beauty in a sketch like this. I love the way you're sort of picking up on the intentionality of it. Even the photo that I'm trying to post here. Yes, they are curated, folks. Of course they're curated. Why the hell would you not curate it? You're going to take the time to draw it and post it online. Of course you're going to curate it. So I'm trying to elicit the response that Kurt just described is, how can I create motion in a static image? How can I create the idea of floating in space, where I'm not even rendering the whole scene? And can you do that with just two colors, black and white, and a bunch of hatching, to kind of create that gray? And so it's an experiment. I mean, each one of these is an experiment, and it's all sort of your own visual prompt that you're trying to create. And I'm glad that it can provoke that kind of discussion. That's why we do this. They're not finished products. They're sketches in a sketchbook. I'll probably revisit this one again. This is not, especially with knowing Artemis is going to be coming here soon. So I'm sure that you're going to see a few more space sketches. But all that to say is we mentioned a few movies. We mentioned space, science fiction, influence. Let's talk about this other sketch, because there's sort of something else kind of going on here.
Well, Fifth Element, if people aren't aware, it's another movie that should be on most people's lists, right?
Oh yeah.
And actually, it's probably due for a rewatch. I'm due for a rewatch of that, because sci-fi.
So good.
Sci-fi is a nice escape mechanism for me. And right now I could. Although I'm reading an interesting novel, I haven't read a novel in too long, and I'm reading John Irving is what I guess I like John Irving's writing. It's easy for me to understand, and it's fun. It doesn't require too much attention, because I usually fall asleep when I read. At night, I should say, when I'm going to bed. All the TMI information. But anyway, science fiction is kind of I mean, we talk about all kinds of science fiction, from The Matrix, to Space Odyssey or other sort of Sid Mead and Blade Runner and things like that, right? Things that sort of twist and push the curiosity of like what a futurist condition, right, might be like. And it's actually kind of dovetails a little bit with this concept of diagramming. We had this interesting conversation in studio on Monday, and the coordinator of the class, described architects, right, as we're optimists, but we're also projecting, right? We design to a projected future or a proposed future. We're not, if you design to today or now, by the time it's completed, it will be out of date, right? Stale, too late, right? So you have to sort of he used another analogy. Scott's really good at maybe we should have him on the podcast to just get deep into analogy. But there was he described a sort of military tactic. Great, like you don't aim the missile directly at the target, right? You aim it on an arc so that it lands where you need it to. Anyway, that's a sort of it's an unfortunate militaristic tactic to weave into this narrative right now. But
Or you can translate it to the soccer
ball,
to the beautiful game.
yes,
Yeah, and you can say, the short little Canadian dude who used to play, and was really good at sort of a predictive feature. Like I was really good at knowing where we wanted folks to be at a particular time. And so when we had a set piece, I was usually the guy who could go, yeah, I want to put the ball here because that's where somebody needs to put their head on it.
mm-hmm.
And that
Projection.
kind of a predictive future. You're projecting, I get you. I'm right there with Scott. Scott's got it. It's okay. Just not military.
Yeah, he had to walk that back a little bit too. But so your take on Fifth Element and this, and I mean,
I love.
There's a lot of baked in.
I love this movie. Like it is so. Like you can call it a guilty pleasure, like whatever. Like it's such a good film. There's so much to unpack. I will try and just hit the highlights. But for those who've not watched it or have watched it and go, I don't get it or whatever, it's got Egypt, right? It's got it's a love story. It's sci-fi. It's got Tricky, right? The English hip hop guy does some acting cred in it. For those who are check out my Instagram for this sketch. I definitely put a Tricky track on there. I mean, love him. And what's crazy, I didn't realize what his character's name was until very recently. So I don't believe this was a Twin Peaks reference, but it quite possibly could be. So he's referred to as the right arm. Like his character name is the right arm. In Twin Peaks, there's the left arm, which is a whole different story, totally unrelated. But, unpack that someday. So, but it's effectively like, imagine, and this is going to sound sort of like very, I don't know, like crass, but I don't know. It's a French sci-fi film, right? That's really what it is. It's like, it's for an American audience, but it's an international lens on what sci-fi could be. And where that kind of goes is it's stylized in a way that an American audience in the 90s, sort of late 90s, wasn't ready for, right? But you put a very, very prominent American actor, Bruce Willis, in the lead. You put him in this sort of, it's sci-fi, but it feels like it's, you see New York, but it's a futuristic New York. It's 200 plus years in the future. Bruce Willis, of course, is a taxi driver who's got some issues, and finds himself sort of embroiled in this sci-fi conspiracy. Mia Jovovich is amazing actress. Is she's this incredible person in the movie. Not no spoilers, but basically she saves the world, right? Because she exists. And what's okay? So it's a spoiler, but here's the thing: she's this creature who everybody is after for all these ulterior motives that are very, very, self-centered. And she has this beautiful view because of her characters where she's trying to find her way in it all, and it's all sort of fascinating, beautiful, and wonderful, and she's trying to absorb it all, and there's an empathy through her character, and at the same time there's all this sort of regulation that's kind of going on. There's sort of a xenophobic kind of layer to it. There's an immigration kind of migrant kind of thing, like, who are you, show me your papers, um, what's your identity, how are you connected to all these things. And this is a person that is in effect going to save not just the world but also the universe by her existence. And uh, and she's childlike in that sort of love and kind of wonder and trying to express her emotions. And because it has this sort of French quality to it, a lot of that's in the film, just kind of in its DNA. And then you have this stylized reality where Jean-Paul Gaultier is is the director of all the fashion, for the whole film. So characters are in these amazing costumes. Set design is pretty incredible, and so it just it's a great film. It's got all these kind of different different levels of it, and you can dig into it, or you can just sort of check your brain at the door and just kind of enjoy it. Um,
Right, for the
but
visual. Yeah, yeah.
just for the visual, just for the visuals alone, exactly. Um, And like I was alluding to, um, I think the concept of where we are in the news today, where we are, in the country today, where um, you can't ignore the fact that we're in a place that the U.S. hasn't seen since World War II, and uh, in World War II, probably one of many dark moments in the U.S. history, but um, certainly one that isn't talked about enough. Um, we interned American citizens in camps. We stripped them of their property. We took them from their homes, and we put them in camps far, oftentimes states, thousands of miles away from where they lived, all because they didn't look like the populace that
Right.
was in
A
power.
certain way.
And so, yeah, and so Japanese Americans, you know, and oftentimes, more often than not, citizens of this country were put in camps all over the country. I mean, there's a camp not too far from here in Texas.
Yeah.
Um, most of those Japanese Americans were sort of taken from California and West Coast, but yeah, they were interned all over the country, Utah, Nevada, Colorado, and a lot of that history uh, took a long time for the country to reckon with. A lot of folks don't even know that history,
Yeah.
but you fast forward to today, and now we're at a point where I ask you, Kurt, and we've talked about this, personally between the two of us, but someone stops you on the street and says, "Are you a citizen?" How do you prove it?
Well, the basic way should be show an ID, right? A state. Usually everyone carries a driver's license, right? and now
But that's not
I'm
that doesn't prove your citizenship.
I know, I know. I guess I carry I have a passport card on next to my license, which
I mean,
that proves nationality.
yeah, but I mean, you live in the United States, buddy. You know, the fact that someone's asking you to prove it is sort of that's
Oh yeah,
already a bridge too far, right?
yeah,
But like, I didn't become a U.S. citizen until I was 24. You know,
yeah,
I went to high school. I went to college. I didn't become a U.S. citizen until I was 24 years old. So if somebody stopped me at 23 and said, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" and I would say no, because I would answer right honestly, or "Where were you born?" and you tell them where you were born, and they would say, "Well, show me your papers," right? Or say I was 25, right? And now I'm naturalized. Now I've become a citizen. And they say, "Where were you born?" And I tell them where I was born. And they say, "Well, show me your papers." And I say, "Well, I'm a US citizen." And they say, "Prove it." If I showed them my Texas driver's license, I've always had a Texas driver's license,
yeah,
right? Had a Texas driver's license since I was 16. Wasn't a citizen when I was 16,
yeah, 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 yeah.
you know? So it's I mean, of course, I'm not the one they're going to stop. I'm not the one that they're going to ask that question of. I know that, but I also know what that process looks like. I also know what those papers mean. And what's funny, this movie is the one where it's sort of a campy film, right? It's an easy one to digest, but there's this wonderful moment, and it's sort of like it's a running joke a bit in the film, where Leeloo Dallas, right? She assumes Corgan Dallas's name, Bruce Willis's character, right? Because they're trying to get her papers so she can get on the ship and kind of go to the next part of the adventure. And so she has to show, to get on the ship, she has to show her ID. She's never had an ID, right? And it's like, show me your papers, right? And so she's like, multi-pass. She doesn't even know what she's showing them, right? She's just heard that this thing is a multi-pass and pronounces it in the most like inarticulate way, totally exaggerated, all for a comedic effect. But it's exactly what's going on right now, right? And that's the part to me that is, you know, for someone who's had that, lived with that, you know, you know, I never felt like somebody's gonna ask me about it, but it was in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Um, and now we're living with it and watching it, and I'm watching a lot of people who are suffering from it. And then you hear all the folks who are suffering from it who are absolutely American citizens too, um, and even trying to prove it. And even them, it's like, who the hell carries a passport on them? I mean, I'm carrying a passport on me now when I far from the house, right? And I think that that's something that a lot of folks need to kind of be aware of. And so for me, this sketch was one where it was like, how do I deal with current events for myself? Um, I did watch The Fifth Element, um, just because I needed that, like you said, the escapism of a good flick. I'd highly recommend it for your mental health. Um, it's such a good movie. God, it's such a good movie. But yeah, the multi-pass. So that's where the sketch was.
I remember that scene now more so because of the way you described it. But yeah, Yeah. It's I don't have a lot more to add right now about these times, but I mean that's why I carry my passport card, because I'm half Guatemalan. So while the winter time doesn't
Yep.
let me have a good tan, Danielle asked me to do that because just in case, you know, I do fit a profile that is being looked for. So the presence in this state isn't as, we're not like a situation like Minnesota, but I mean, you've
Well, I
probably
mean, but
seen me
it's
change my profile picture back to
oh
Rage Against the Machine. So
yeah, I think, even just what Danielle is saying and sort of what you're sort of alluding to, right, is, here we are on this podcast, right, and if you're, this is the way the world works, right? You look at the two of us, which one's from here,
right, yeah,
right?
right,
And they're going to get it wrong. And
yeah,
that's the whole point to me, is that they're going to get it wrong. And what's, and I know there's privilege in that for myself. I mean, I know where I've tried to process that, amidst a lot of different things and kind of learning what that means, for myself. But I've also learned in moving to this country and growing up here how people talk about other places
yeah,
or people from other places. And because I'm in the room when they're talking about people from other places,
right,
because they don't realize that I'm kind of one of those people, right?
right, yeah, yeah,
And that's not something just as an adult, dude. That's something that I've heard since I was a kid.
yeah,
But yeah, it's I don't know. These times it's hard not to talk about it. I appreciate you indulging me to um, let us. I mean, we try not to be overtly political or talk about challenging subjects, but I don't. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't,
yeah, oh yeah,
given what's all on and kind of who we are and what we believe in. So, and it's, I mean, hell, I mean, if you need a good movie to check your brain at the door, go watch The Fifth Element. Enjoy it.
yeah, I it I that's why I wanted to squeeze those two sketches together, because I I didn't want to skip past that uh the chance to talk about that, because it did remind me. So yeah, thanks. And now I'm going to, hopefully before the next time we record, I will have reabsorbed the Bruce Willis, and
Well, you have to
it's all
watch
coming
it
back to
so
me.
that
So
then
yeah,
I can help you. Yeah. So you watch it and then soon, so that when we get back on, I help you set up your Letterbox account.
oh, tell me which button to push.
Yep.
All right.